this is the question I get far more than any other question is, what do you do about technology? Tell the truth. Don't cuss. Those are the 2 rules. So Liam is by far the most hardcore online gamer in our family. You know, you're all impressed because he plays chess, right? Like, what homeschooling parent isn't like, oh yes, very good interest, superior human being. I am proud of Julie's homeschool. Now, let's hear how many hours Liam spent playing, what was it?
Which one? Warcraft 3.
Warcraft, yes. Here we go. My gamer. Yeah. I present you the story of Liam and online gaming.
So I started playing a game called StarCraft in 1999 when I was 5 years old with my brothers and my dad, and that sort of set and we also played other games. We played a game called Bolo, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. But what's been like really incredible has been that just like the opportunity to play video games. Like I would credit like online communities with being like the source of like a huge wealth of information. And as well as just like experience. I think like one thing that people often associate with chess is something like strategy and like intellect and like dealing with problems that are presented to you on the fly, and that's not generally something that's associated with video games, but especially things like real-time strategy games are exactly the same in that aspect. So like it's very much like not only something that I found to be and still find to be like incredibly fun and enjoyable and a huge source of joy and happiness in my life, but also like a hugely valuable experience in just the way that I view the world and myself and the way that I've like grown as a person, especially because video games have not only stayed relevant throughout my entire life, but they've grown with me to the point that a game, like a version of a game that I played in 2000 is currently the most popular game in the world right now. As far as addiction goes, I would never describe anything I felt as addiction in the sense of like dependency. I think that it's something that like I don't have any experience with addiction, like in video games or outside of them. It's definitely something that doesn't have necessarily an end goal when you're playing online, so it can be something that will take as much time as you dedicate to it.
Oh, that's a great point. So because there isn't an end goal, it can feel like there's never a time when you're done, which is the experience we have of watching our kids play, isn't it? They're never done. You say dinner's ready, they say I'll be ready in 10 minutes. They're not done in 10 minutes. Then we say, well, how long? And then they say, okay, 10 more, and it's 20 minutes, right? So that's really important to remember. The experience is of not being done. So we might call that quote unquote addiction when really there just isn't closure.
Yeah.
And so dealing with this lack of closure is an ongoing sort of dialogue.
The most popular games in the world right now are all games that don't have any sort of closure. Even the single player games which are meant to have closure, the 2 most popular ones are Skyrim and Fallout 4, and then a lesser version would be Minecraft. All of those have single-player versions, but you can explore those for literally thousands of hours. Over 1 year of time, I put in 480 hours into Skyrim. It is like, that is something that people get endless joy out of. And I get endless joy out of. I have invested like thousands of hours into the various games that I play. And I don't want to make it sound like because there's no end goal, there's no point to it. Like, It's definitely, like, I have personal goals that I like to reach because I'm pretty hyper competitive. And so what I generally derive a lot of joy from is, like, being good
people.
and being better than other people. Like, I enjoy some single player video games, but usually it is against other people. And so part of that is that I am putting my skills directly against someone else in a way that does not allow for advantages to exist. Like within chess, all of the rules exist to such a point that you can't like break them, and that is especially true in video games because it's like built right in. I feel like I have personal goals or responsibilities to be improved at it. And so I think something that's often overlooked is that having the ability to motivate yourself to find a talent somewhere and reach that talent to a satisfactory level is something that is not only like there within the first principle of playing online games, it is also there within the communities of those games in an incredibly supportive way.
I think this is a feature of homeschoolers that we should not neglect. They want to see how they stack up with the outside world. It's not enough just to hear your mother tell you you're a great human being. We all do it, we all say it, we all mean it. But they need to actually see in their own peer group, and they find different ways, different methods for making that happen.
What I find especially fun about them is that while the setting is similar or the same in each match that you play, like similar to like that of football, like every setting in a football game is always
identical.
The same. It's always going to be different, and you're always going to have a unique play, a unique interest or way of approaching the situation.
Execution.
Yeah, and you're always going to have to go out of your way to find ways of beating your opponent that will work against new opponents, because no one thing always works. Yeah, I think it's very easy to overlook that like the joy of video games doesn't come at any cost. Like, I would say the opportunity cost of playing video games is equal to that of doing anything else. And if you are experiencing like joy or pleasure from something that is also bringing you a sense of satisfaction or motivation to reach a personally set goal, or a sense of education or belonging to a community, those are all things that have been incredibly valuable to me throughout my life and are still valuable to me. Almost all of the games I play are either incredibly affordable or free. So the most popular format for games right now is a free-to-play version. So League of Legends and Team Fortress 2 and Dota 2, which have been three of my favorite games, are all free to play. So you can download them and enjoy them. And yeah, I use Steam for all of the games that I play. Dota 2 is a game that I play voraciously. I've been playing that since 2003. And that game is free to play. Earlier, someone asked, the game that I said was good for kids, like probably like junior high into high school, was Team Fortress 2. That game like really grows, I think, with the person playing it. And
Awesome.
Then I would say Minecraft is like the most fun.
Describe the basic structure of the games, and honestly, if you're watching Star Wars or any of these Marvel comic movies or, Independence Day 25, that's the level of violence that you see in these games. You see people hiding. It's the end of days, the underdogs are out, they have their guns, and they're trying to blow up things and break stuff and kill people. That's my view from standing back.
Yeah,
Liam?
I mean, that's definitely one version of it. I would say that most of the games that I play, like especially Team Fortress 2 or Dota 2, have violence on such a non-real level that it doesn't even
register.
Yeah, it's not even similar to real life at all. Team Fortress 2 is basically a comic book made into a video game, so you can turn off any and all gore or violent effects, including like blood. I did that, but not really for any reason associated with like violence. It was just because I wanted it to look better.
Did anyone even know that?
Yeah.
That you can turn off the blood and gore on a game? I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like Dota 2 is like a top-down game. You're looking at it from a bird's eye view, controlling one character, and none of the violence is from a first-person or even third-person perspective. It's all like you're looking down from a plane onto a battlefield, and then then, none of that violence looks real in any way, and there isn't even blood involved. So violence, I would say, personally has never really been a big issue for me. I play a lot of games which have been at varying levels of violence. Like the most violent game that I think I've played would be something along the lines of Gears of War, or like other games, specifically like horror games. Like there's a game called Fear, which was just needlessly violent. But games like Torchlight, which I saw someone reference earlier, is like tons of fun. Like that is based off a game that I played like so much of called Diablo, and Torchlight is I think like free or like $15, and it's like amazing, like incredibly well made and super fun.
So that one was called Torchlight.
Yeah, and then as far as like violence goes, there's another game that I play, which I play the most of right now, which is Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is a game of terrorists versus counter-terrorists, and you will play both equally, and you're shooting other humans and they're dying in front of you. But the thing about that is it's not in any real or meaningful manner, in the sense that you're dead for like 10 seconds and then you're back in the game and there is no blood, there's no gore. Their body is on the ground just to mark that they are dead, but there's no...
So it's like knocking over a piece in a board game and then bringing it back to life.
Yeah, and like I've been playing Counter-Strike since I was 12 and have never once had any personal affectation by the violence depicted in the games. I remember reading an article written by one of my good friends who works for a video game publication called IGN, which is like one of the most famous gaming magazines in the world, about how people who play violent video games often feel guilty about their actions within the games, to the point of understanding the way that their actions impact those around them in the real world. And I would say that has been true primarily for my personal, like interpersonal interactions.
Cool.
Like the way that I interact with other people online has much less of an impact on my social life than how I talk to people in real life. And so understanding my relationships online has really helped in person. And then my violent video games are so separate from reality that I've never felt any reflection on who I am or my actions based on the actions I've done in video games. And I think that's been accurate between my friends as well.
Relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Human beings.
Yeah. So I would say it's had an overall net positive effect. Most of the relationships I have associated with gaming have been online, but then a lot of the people that I've become best friends with have been involved in games as well. So one of the first activities I can remember bonding with my best friend, also a homeschooler, Michael Mulcahy, over, was playing Dota in my house. He would come over and we would sit next to each other and talk and take turns playing this game, which only one person in our house could play at a time. So he would play a game and I would watch.
I remember
and
that.
Then I would play a game and he would watch, and we would give each other advice and have tons of fun. And that's continued. So now we're both in our 20s, and I still play games with him. And that's been true for just about all of my best friends that I've had.
I remember Liam saying to me one time, "Mom, I need to learn how to spell. I don't want to look like an idiot when I'm typing in chat." There are relational benefits to gaming. He went off to college, and what did you do your freshman year of college in relationship to gaming? This shocked the socks off of me.
So I didn't take my computer. I had a laptop that I bought for college, but it couldn't play any video games. Purposefully bought one that couldn't play video games, and then I didn't take anything with me to college that could play video games because I didn't want to find myself distracted from studying by video games as I might have felt in the past. Especially during high school, I know that I didn't do a lot of assignments for the sake of video games. Although that's more of a reflection on how much I disliked high school than it is to how much I loved video games.
Right.
But so freshman year of college, I didn't take my computer with me, and I didn't play any games except when I was home on breaks. And then when I went to college this year, I felt that I had enough of a grasp on my education, on my own motivations and discipline, so I brought my computer with me, and it has had no negative impact on my experience at school.
What I love is that was all him. That wasn't me. So that was Liam as a mature person making choices because there were choices to be made. It wasn't reacting against me or his dad. It was him at a point ready to go to college. Now, he didn't start college until, how old were you, 20?
I was 20, yeah.
He was 20. And he took longer in junior high. We did an extra year of junior high. And then in high school, I've shared this before. I was going through a very rough period in my life. And so I put him and Katrin in full-time high school, which wasn't really what they wanted. Katrin thrived. Liam famously said, I don't want to go. And I said to him, well, if you homeschool, will you follow through on the work? And he said, no. I said, all right, then you're going. So that's what we did. That's what we did. And we decided to just get through high school as best we could. I didn't worry about his grades. I didn't nag him about homework. There was one crisis moment where he sort of had to turn it around, and he did. We figured it out. But tell him where you're at college now, because I just find all this fascinating. Liam is he was my son who had dysgraphia. He read the earliest, he wrote the latest. He's had a very interesting education. So I want you to tell him about St. John's and also the poetry club.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I go to school at St. John's College in Annapolis, Maryland, which is the first liberal arts college in the country.
Woohoo!
And it was started by the same person who started William and Mary's in Harvard, and then we adopted a program in 1933, which was called the Great Books Program. So the Encyclopedia Britannica came out with a list of books called the Great Books in the 1930s, which were a history of all of the books important to the canon of Western literature and culture. And so that's what I've been studying at school. So it's about 500 students. All of them get the same classes, same degree, etc. And so I'm a sophomore now. My first year was all entirely studying the classics of Greece. So I read Plato, Aristotle, Aeschylus, Euripides, Sophocles, Euclid, Ptolemy, and a few other authors that aren't jumping to mind right now.
And he studied Greek.
Oh yeah, and I was studying Greek the whole time. So we're learning Attic Greek. So I just finished actually my last semester of Greek, but I've been translating Koine Greek, which is just a later version and kind of easier actually for the New Testament, and I translated the Ode to Man from Sophocles' Antigone, and I translated 40 pages of a Platonic dialogue last year. And so, yeah, I've been loving the community there. It's amazing, and I love the education I'm getting and the classes. And so then, so my mom asked me to share about something else I started, which is a poetry group that I started. So in reference to all of the poetry tea times that we did when I was younger,
go.
Which I do absolutely brag about all the time and tell all my friends about because it's ridiculous in how great it is. So I started a poetry group.
He totally drinks tea.
So every Saturday night, I invite everyone at the school to come witness five people that I've invited to read original poetry. So the first week was me and 4 of my friends reading all original poetry, and it was only 20 of us in a common room down the hall from me. But now it's every Saturday night, and it is about 50 people show up, and we've had over 200 poems read, all original works, save one person who didn't read original works, but he had curated a list of poems based on a story he had experienced that he felt could be told better in that method, which I totally supported. We've had one guy do comedy, one guy do improv. We've had 3 people read long form. One person read an oral tradition that's been passed down in their family for 4 generations. And it's all just been incredible. It's an amazing community. And as far as the poetry goes, it's all just been excellent and just inspiringly good. And I'm consistently approached by people and just told that it's their favorite part of the week or their favorite experience. And the waiting list to read poems right now is at like 3 months.
Isn't that amazing? I love that. So Liam loved poetry as a kid. I mean, he was totally into it. Do you remember still The Eagle?
Yeah.
Can you recite it?
Yeah.
So Liam, when he was growing up, he used to keep poetry by his bed, and he would read it before he went to sleep, and he memorized poems. So the one, though, I'm asking him to recite is his first poem. Let's see if he remembers
Yeah,
it.
so this is a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's called The Eagle. It came out after he had gone on an adventure he later wrote about where he went down the English countryside. So this poem is called The Eagle. He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Ringed with the azure world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls.
When he was little, he would always go, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Like, that was adorable. I want you to just sort of get this. Liam's awesome. He's always been awesome. But he was unschooled. He was not traditionally educated. He was my bird watching companion. We did birding his whole life. He loved the Redwall series. He was a big gamer. He played chess. He loved poetry. He's been exceptional at math, and we weren't good at math. Liam was great at math. We were not good at math. Like, this person, and yet, if you saw our family dynamic and if you saw our homeschool, you might think, oh no, that's too much online gaming, or, well, when was he going to sit down and do schoolwork? Well, he did do some. And I went 3 years where we didn't do any writing together. Someone asked if he was a lefty. He is a lefty. Yeah. And he found handwriting really hard. So we spent 3 years where he didn't do any handwriting. And we did where he'd dictate and I'd transcribe. He did some handwriting therapy with Rita Savasco, who was on one of our scopes recently, for 2 years. And now he's writing papers. All he does is read and write papers. This kid who I thought hated writing. And you like writing.
Yeah, writing's, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel unnatural.
Yeah. Each person's educational journey is a long story. It's a long story. So some of you panicking right now about 7th and 8th graders, just remember they're only 7th and 8th graders. Liam started college at 20. He took some time to figure things out. He got a job. He traveled. He figured out high school the way that would work for him. And it looks totally different than Jake and Johanna, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know, like, unschooling is amazing. I've had a lot of people ask me about it just because it's not a familiar word or idea to them. I think I fondly remember my years of unschooling in a way that not in combat with the way I remember homeschooling. I got involved in a lot of communities. I developed a taste for like aestheticism, which is like something that I don't think I would have otherwise developed.
Right.
And I got interested in a lot of things which I didn't actually have resources for at the time in real life that I think I would never have otherwise been interested in. So things like cars and fashion and skiing and longboarding all were kindled originally from when I was unschooled and I had just about infinite time to do whatever I wanted with. And that was amazingly freeing. I also played tons of video games, which I think of as being one of the best times of my life because of how much I like playing video games and how much that built in me like an incredibly solid base to build, you know, a semi-professional career in games in. I don't know if you've told them this, but I've played video games professionally in 4 different video games online. So I've played, as she said earlier, I've played in like online tournaments that have been broadcast internationally, not just Korea, but France, Germany, England, and Japan. And I've played in like national tournaments with like upwards of 40,000 viewers for games like League of Legends or like custom games, even like in a game called Warcraft 3. I played like World of Warcraft briefly, but I wasn't super into it, but like I love it as a game. And I played League of Legends competitively, Dota 2 competitively, Team Fortress 2 competitively, which I saw someone in here said their child played, which is really cool. Because I do think that's one of the like easiest and most accessible and most fun games that you can play. I think the thing that I've generally really noticed, which has been cool, is that I play, like when I play video games, the community grows with the individual playing them. Like when I was like 13, I was friends with other 13-year-olds playing games. I wasn't friends with like 20-year-olds.
Nice.
You know? And then as I've grown into being like 21, now all of my friends in games are like 21.
That makes sense.
It's not like, and as a 21-year-old, I don't actually want to play games with 13-year-olds. So
right.
I'm not like going out of my way to corrupt your children in a game, and neither are any of my friends. And so you don't actually need to figure that out as an individual, as a 13-year-old. The communities come up organically. Like I don't go and play a game and say I want to like find other people like me. I just say I want to find people I enjoy playing with. And the skill level of a 13-year-old is going to match the skill level of other 13-year-olds. And so is the language level, the way that they approach situations, the communication. It's all going to match. Like I don't think you would expect your kid as a 13-year-old to find and enjoy playing football with 17-year-olds. And that is similar in video games.
And it's true. I know that you're thinking, yeah, but you can't see each other. But part of it is your life stage sort of determines who you hang out with. I mean, that's true for you right now. Like, you're probably not hanging out on websites where women are talking about, ailments and menopause if you're in your 30s still having babies. So there's a kind of way online, and these kids are better at it than we are because they're natives. We're like immigrants coming with an accent into this world of the internet. But these kids have developed skills that are so much more nuanced than that. Someone asked about how it impacts on sibling relationships, and I'll just say this. The boys love talking about their games, and they play each other. When Noah lived in Connecticut and Liam lived here, they were often on the same game and talking over the headset at each other. Sometimes like, you blockhead, what are you doing? But like there's rapport built around the gaming experience the same way there would be rapport built around baking together. It's just we value one and the other we're suspicious of. It's whatever your family culture enjoys, creates bonding and creates a sense of community even within the family.
So that's like massive multiplayer online RPGs like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars or Terra.
Right.
I've played all of those. I've also played RuneScape and dozens of other games that I'm forgetting. And yeah, I think those have a much stronger sense of consistent community and culture within them because they never stop, and it is like a world outside of your own. And I think they're incredible. I think it's like just the spaces created and the creativity involved in running a character and being involved in something that doesn't reset each time you do it is amazing.
Yeah, these are places where you can be male or female, right?
Yeah, the thing about that is that no one really takes that seriously in those games. There is a phenomenon that happens in World of Warcraft where people who are women are specifically sought out and defended by men in the games. like defended in the sense that like they actively go out of their way to be extra nice to any woman they encounter for whatever reason, generally positive reasons.
Someone asked about girls playing in these mostly male communities, and that is kind of an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's a big problem. There was something last year that happened. It was called Gamergate. I don't know if
I remember that. Gamergate, yeah.
Gamergate was a big issue about ethics in video game journalism associated with sites like Kotaku and IGN. But basically it was just about how video games themselves are primarily made by men and then are not primarily, but very misogynistic, and then the culture reflects that as well. And so there are difficulties there, and I, as a man, have never had to deal with them on a personal level. Like, I have never been attacked for just being a man playing video games, but it is something that happens to women consistently within video games, and I don't really know if there's anything to do about it as far as on an individual level goes. I know that video games like Minecraft are usually more friendly in the sense that it's generally younger people playing it.
And there's a better ratio.
Yeah, there's definitely a much better ratio. And then I also know that no matter what game you play, as long as it is not made clear that you are a female within the game, no one would ever assume that you are a female.
No.
Now, that is like the extent
kind of
of the
too.
advice. There is no the community of gamers, I think, reflects the state of the country as far as misogyny.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of our personality. Now, we grew up in a time where the internet and technology were evolving with us. The options now are so much bigger. We had one computer in the family room. Everyone took turns in naturally limited time. Now you've got tablets, iPads, iPhones, laptops, and mainframes all in one house. Everyone can be on all the time. So you've got to figure out for your family what feels healthy. I can't tell you that. Liam for sure can't tell you that. He's never been a parent. He doesn't have children. What he's told you is that he loved having the freedom to spend thousands of hours online, and it hasn't been a detriment to his future. He's in a great school program, and he's a well-read, smart kid. So that's what we've done.
Yeah, thank you so much. I loved answering your questions. I love talking. One thing I would say about unlimited time online is that my mom referenced that my time spent online was in the family room, so it was around my family all the time, and I consistently resented that during the time when I was doing it. But looking back on it, and especially during times when I've spent time away from my family on a computer in a separate room, I've come to the conclusion that I think it's generally preferable to be spending even just physically close time with your family while on the computer than not. That isn't to say that I would force your children to spend time with you while they're playing Minecraft, but that is something that I appreciated about having it in the family.
Yeah, that's a great point. We discovered, Noah brought this up, and that's why we changed it. He says, you, at least by osmosis, you hear the conversations, you know what TV shows are being watched, there are inside jokes, there's food being offered. It's like the family is having a shared experience, even if one person is gaming. And I really like that.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that was really great for us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yay, I'm going to kiss you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for
having
me.
It
was awesome.